Hi there, my name is Dan Derry, and I'm the president of the Institute of Fulfilled Eschatology. Thanks for tuning in. Last video, I shared some thoughts on why I believe that the coming of the Lord, the second coming, as most refer to it, must have occurred in the first century in AD 70. And I shared that from Matthew chapter 16. In this video, I want to share a thought with you from Matthew chapter 24, which in my opinion is just as definitive proof and evidence that the Lord returned in AD 70 in the first century, obviously. So let's go to Matthew chapter 24, and we will pick it up in verse 29. But immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send forth his angels with a great sound of a trumpet to gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now, verse 34. Jesus says to them, as to leave no mistake as to when this would happen, truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things be fulfilled. Man, did you catch it? All these things. Everything he had spoken from Matthew chapter 24, verse 2, up until this point, at least, must be fulfilled within that, not our generation, but that generation. Jesus is this generation. Now think about this. This phrase, this generation, has been distorted and twisted, and people try to avoid the force of what he's saying to who he's saying it to, and they try to make it to be a race of people or a future generation or whatever people say. But here's a fact. Jesus uses this phrase, this generation, 14 times in the New Testament, obviously, outside of Matthew 24 and its parallel texts, which are Luke 21 and Mark 13. And in every single one of those instances, every single one of them, Jesus is referring to his first century generation. Every single one. And watch this. This is the most powerful thing, in my opinion, to this text. In the chapter just preceding Jesus' words in Matthew 24, and in reality, when he spoke these words, this is maybe a couple of hours separated from Matthew 24, verse 34, he just finished giving 7 woes to his generation, the scribes and the Pharisees. And watch what he says to them. Pick this up in Matthew 23, verse 34. Therefore, behold, I am sending you prophets and wise men and scribes. Some of them you will kill and crucify. Some of them you will scourge in your synagogues and persecute from city to city, so that upon you may fall the guilt of all the righteous bloodshed on the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zachariah, the son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. Watch this. Truly I say to you, to the Pharisees of his generation, truly I say to you, all these things will come upon this generation. Now, nobody that I know in any different eschatological paradigm, whether they're futurists or postmillennials, they understand Jesus to be speaking to the Pharisees of his generation, that judgment would come upon them, which it did in AD 70. How can we divorce this generation in Matthew 23, verse 36, with this generation of Matthew 24, 34, and make this generation and this generation be two different generations separated by 2,000 years? Doesn't seem very consistent to me. So, anyways, this is just a snippet of what I could get into in Matthew 24, and I'm going to keep these videos short, but guys, Matthew 24 is powerful, irrefutable evidence that Jesus, his second coming, his coming on the clouds of heaven as the Son of Man, which, by the way, is Daniel 7, which maybe we'll get into next time. This occurred in AD 70 in his generation. For he swore, truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things be fulfilled. Guys, either they're fulfilled or Jesus' words are false and he's just a liar. And what are we doing? Guys, believe the truth, believe the gospel, and I thank you for your time. God bless.